Sounds pretty good.
Is it good?
Yeah.
I need to take it down a little bit.
I usually have to let it once you go
Yeah.
live. Hear it once you go live.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do this. Let's go ahead and welcome everybody to episode 811 of the Black Brain Trust. This is Black Cultural Intelligence, the cultural impact of Booker T. Washington, Act 4. Now, before we get into it, let's just do our gratuities. Welcome, everyone. Let me do this. And I'm thinking I might need to take this down in my headphones a little bit. Let me see here. But first and foremost, we want to do this. All right, we want to welcome everyone. And then let's do this. If y'all can give me a... All right, and let's see here. You guys can press 808. It's loud. Yeah, that's what I thought, dude. It's super loud in my ear, and I think it was because my daughter was getting her Roblox on. So give me a second. Now that's a lot better. Yeah, like right there. All right. All right. I'm not trying to like blame my daughter for nothing, but she was getting it in last night, man. So yeah, the sound was a little off. All right, so I got an 808 from Iori. Perfect. All right, perfect. MMLT says perfect. All right. So before we get started, man, let's just go ahead and welcome everyone who is in the house. We got Alonzo Hall. Salute. Iori, what's going on, brother? Welcome. Ike Oyamian. What's going on, brother? Welcome. Man of Tomorrow. Seeking My Creator. How you doing, man? Welcome. So we want to welcome everybody to part 4 of this, I guess you could say a deep dive into the legacy of Booker T. Washington. Kind of a hot button, a little bit of a hot button topic because it does start to uncover things about our past, right? That we're through these dialogues we're finding has largely been covered up, and you know, a lot of what is being revealed in these readings that we're doing it really does shed a lot of light on kind of like our current state when you look at it in the sum totality. And this will be stuff that in proceeding live streams we're going to be digging into other topics that are centric to this. So I want to just kind of preface like Act 4 as a continuation of this dialogue here. What's good with you, Ryle?
Can you hear me good?
Yeah, speak again, bro.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you good? You good?
Okay, all right. Just making sure. I got my beats in, so I was just making sure everything's clear.
You know what? It does sound kind of. It was good at first. Now it is kind of rough.
Hold on one second.
All right, Ryan, let's just getting the sound together here.
What about now?
Okay, sounds pretty good.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah, keep going. Go ahead. What you were saying?
Oh no, I was just saying, man. Go ahead, man. You got it.
Okay. Okay. All right, everybody. Wanna with this?
Hey, Ryle, you know what, dude? We're getting like a little crunchy noise, and like it's sounding real staticky, bro. Yeah, not sure what's going on. So Ryle's gonna sort out the mic and the sound stuff. But no, just to kind of go back, man. If you guys have checked out the 3 prior live streams that we've done, you know, we're talking about what it was that we were doing as a folk, actively fresh out of slavery, right? That time period. and what the mindset was, and who were some of the visionaries and the thinkers of the day. And one of the main ones that comes to mind when you really do um, your kind of knowledge on history, Booker T. Washington is a very central figure. And a lot of what it is that he's done is, I don't want to say covered up, but it's been kind of set aside, right? So his what he's contributed to, I'm talking about not only black culture but greater society, America, is downplayed in a lot of ways, and there's reasons for that. Ryle, you sound good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
Oh yeah, you sound good.
all right. So this um, series has been very important for us to do. Like we said before, we're here to set the record straight. Um, this is really not even a debate. Um, but this is going to open up a larger conversation that we're going to be having regarding the fight between the Black intellectual class of the past 100+ years and the Black business class. Primarily the business class at the turn of the 20th century, because we believe there really has been a miscarriage of justice as it relates to the contributions of the Black business class, who set the stage for Black business development, not just Black business development, but institutional development, regarding even schools. Um, some of the information that we're going to bring to bear is going to deal with even schools that we had set up during the 1700s, even to the point that free blacks were setting up schools in Africa in the 1700s. So to negate this history, you're doing Black people as a whole a disservice. Number one, you're not really having an honest argument. You don't have an honest argument when you try to bury the history of something. When you try to bury the history of something, you don't want it to get out, primarily because it's probably going to expose you for being a fraud yourself. So, what we wanted to do was bring these people back to life, show the contributions that these Black people made, and how um, their actions forced society to take Black people much more seriously than Black people are taken now. Um, and part of this dialogue is to show how a man of this importance was able to do that on so many different levels. So let's get into this. Um, we left you all off with the last stream dealing with on the Black business culture in Black society overall. Um, Here we want to talk about the influence that Booker T. Washington has had on, surprisingly, the Black intelligentsia, um, who has had to rethink Booker T. Washington and look at him in a different light, because many of the issues that they claim to have uh, been instrumental in resolving really have not been resolved. In a lot of ways, they've actually made things worse for Black people. Um, what we want to do here is focus on the Black intelligentsia aspect of Washington's influence regarding this specific group. Boston discusses this topic by stating the following. As with the African American leaders and entrepreneurs, the intelligentsia, that is, the thinkers and scholars, began soon after the death of Washington to reflect deeply upon Washington's leadership strategy and legacy. Although Washington lost the great debate to W.E.B. Du Bois, many of the intelligentsia have wondered whether Washington was not, in fact, right. Let's stop it here. Boston acknowledges from a historical perspective that people viewed Du Bois's position as the right one. However, upon much further reflection, we as Black people must reconsider this position. Boston writes further, and the concern raised by this issue heightened when the intelligentsia reflected more on the past and current status of African Americans and compared it to that of other groups. Accordingly, this description applies to a large number of individuals. Boston continues with the following. On December 9th, 1915, in East Orange, New Jersey, at a memorial service honoring Washington and his legacy, W.T.B. Williams, a Harvard graduate and Southern educational worker, gave an address titled Booker T. Washington, an appreciation in this address. Williams first noted that many people regarded Washington as the greatest African American of his time, if not of all time, as well as one of the greatest Southern men of any race. Williams thereafter elaborated on Washington's vision, his societal contributions, and his legacy. It's interesting to note here that many of the masses of Black people during this time regarded Washington as the best leader Blacks have had, even though from the Du Bois types, this view of him has not been really presented. Washington maintained favorability among many Black people during this time, which makes sense based on the fact his projects like the National Negro Business League, Tuskegee Institute, the Negro Farmers and the Negro Farmers Conference had such significant impact in the lives of Black Americans overall. Boston continues, concerning Washington's entrepreneurial philosophy, Williams underscored that Washington was among the first to visualize the coming remarkable material development of the South. And according to Williams, when Washington saw the economic opportunities available in the South, he promoted them to his people, encouraging them to take advantage of these opportunities and develop economic niches by doing common tasks in an uncommon manner. Moreover, Williams noted that Washington left an institution, Tuskegee Institute, to carry on his mission and extend his legacy. If a man's legacy is measured by what institution he leaves behind, then Washington's legacy is solidified. When we look at the Black intelligentsia, there is a lot of rhetoric, but no institutions that can connect with Blacks overall. This is what James C. Napier recognized when he listened to a speech of Du Bois along with his wife, who felt the same way as we noted earlier. Boston continues. Williams's address was given about 3 weeks after the death of Washington. And one could legitimately argue that this does not really show the long-standing pervasiveness of Washington's entrepreneurial philosophy, but that it has indeed been pervasive is evident, because among the intelligentsia, a pattern does exist of publicly revisiting and reviving Washington and his ideas by arguing that he offered a viable economic uplift program. It makes sense that the intelligentsia would have to consistently revisit Booker T. Washington's works, because the very problems that existed during his time that he attempted to help resolve through his economic philosophy still exists amongst Blacks. In terms of like where the banks, the hospitals, the schools, where African Americans can learn practical skill sets that can help build an economic infrastructure built by the intelligentsia. Rhetoric only gets you but so far, which is why Washington abhorred theory, because it didn't take African Americans anywhere. It only keeps African Americans in a state of languishing in misery. Washington knew that if African Americans couldn't produce their own economy, they would be a dependent group of people, which he was trying to avoid. Boston continues. Therefore, Williams' remarks immediately following Washington's death contributed to the beginnings of such a pattern, and for this reason need to be considered. In 1940, for example, Henry Jerkins, a contributor to The Opportunity, a periodical published by the National Urban League, wrote that the problem concerning economic adjustment for African Americans was still acute. Moreover, he stressed that Washington's solution was still as it had brought economic independence to thousands who had tried it and found it workable. 19 years later, in revisiting and reflecting upon Washington, Chuck Stone, writing for the New York Age, presented a series of ideas concerning Washington's entrepreneurial philosophy and legacy. Some of these were: 1. The wise words of Booker T. Washington, which were completely misunderstood and misrepresented, are truer 65 years later than they were on that history-filled day, the day of Washington's Atlanta Exposition Address. 2. Through the years, Negroes have never understood the most elementary facts about the American economy. As Washington tried to teach them, either you are a producer and manager or a worker. To be a part of the power structure of America, you must control money. This the Negro has never done. Perhaps if a few more Negroes in 1895 had understood the real meaning of Booker T. Washington's message, the whole structure of America's biracial society would have been different today. Had more Negroes busied themselves with the need to become owners of industry, the race problem in its most serious light would have offered a brighter hue. I know you want to get in on that.
You know, what it does is just kind of points to somebody who basically predicted the future.
Right.
Okay. And since we opted not to kind of follow that directive, we got what we got today. And he said you'd get this.
Right.
Literally said, well, you do that, you're going to get that.
There's a question that I keep asking when I'm in these spaces, when we're talking to Black men. And I asked them, do you want entertainment or do you want institutions? And going back to this comment or this remark that this gentleman made about to be a part of the power structure of America, you must control money. That means you have to build economy amongst your own. You have to control the money. Booker T. Washington understood this, which is why he and George Washington Carver went to work so fast at Tuskegee, because they understood that in order for them, in terms of Black people, to advance, they needed to control the Black economy. Because now, since Black people were freed, Black people were a demographic to sell products to.
Yep.
So they theorized, rightfully so, that if we can control our own market first, it will make us dominant. And then it will give us the springboard necessary to get to other markets and compete in other markets.
Yeah.
Because this is what other people do. See, other people will come into a Black area, predominantly Black area, and set up business.
They just set up shop
and compete in that market.
Oftentimes, they don't even have to compete.
Right. They don't really have to compete.
They don't even have to compete.
Yeah, they just really fill a
They
void.
just there, yeah.
They fill a void. So, but it's interesting that in this context, they're talking about having to revisit somebody who Black academia for a long time has turned their back on this particular gentleman. And so the irony of this is that it's the Black intelligentsia who's having to kind of face themselves by looking at the results Booker T. Washington had produced and having to look at what they have not produced for
Or
Black people.
or in that regard, what they have.
Right.
It ain't much.
It ain't much. These four assessments demonstrate the fact that Washington has to be reimagined in the annals of Black American history, especially understanding how Black business has become such a trending topic amongst Black social commentators as of late, who seem to only take business serious when their favorite entertainer or sports star demonstrates business success. Not that we are here to take away the business successes of Black entertainers, because we're not. However, what we do not want to do what we do not want is for African Americans to think Black celebrities are the gateway to Black economic expansion. If there were no Black celebrities doing business, African Americans would still need to engage in business development. As Boston continues, he writes, Randall Brock, writing about Washington in a 1992 article for the magazine Crisis. And for those that don't know, Crisis was the magazine, I don't know if it still is, was the magazine for the NAACP. Okay, so that's just giving you a context. Like, this is interesting for somebody from the NAACP, which is Du Bois's shit.
Creation.
They're writing about Booker T. Washington. Writing about Washington in a 1992 article for the magazine Crisis emphasized that with over a third of the African American community in dire poverty and with the American economy in transition, Washington's economic strategy, divorced from its political prescriptions, was still valid. Now let's stop it here.
That means regardless of what way you swayed politically, the plan was solid.
Let's stop it right here. Okay. Now this is not some Booker T. Washington fanboy. This is somebody who is working for the NAACP, the very organization that Du Bois started specifically to undermine Booker T. Washington's program. Okay. So let's not mince any words on this. This is his creation. And even one of the people from his organization is saying that his economic model is still valid. Do y'all really understand how powerful that is?
Yeah, he gave up the ghost.
That's what we call in our world a confession.
He was right.
That's a confession. Okay. All right.
Hashtag Booker T was right.
Concurring with Brock in a 1997 essay. So we're going from 1992 to 1997. So we're seeing somewhat of a linear progression of people having to say, wait a minute, maybe Booker T was right.
You mean just kind of like leading up to like literally this moment right here?
Concurring with Brock in a 1997 essay, John Sibley Butler, somebody that we will be covering in our next series, which is going to be dealing with how Black academia sold the Black business class out and Black America as well. This brother is very powerful. I've been reading his book on economics and self-help. and it's a doozy. It is a great book. Um, John Sibley Butler, after reflecting on Washington's entrepreneurial philosophy, writes, and the then current economic status of African Americans argued that Washington was right because he understood the relationship between business enterprise, education, and the success of future generations. I'm going to read that one more time. Concurring with Brock in a 1997 essay, John Sibley Butler, who is a professor at the University of Texas, I've already reached out to him. I've reached out to him because I'm trying to talk to him.
Yep.
After reflecting on Washington's entrepreneurial philosophy and the then current economic status of African Americans, argued that Washington was right because he understood the relationship between business enterprise, education, and the success of future generations. Once again, it is shown that Booker T. Washington had the pulse of what African Americans needed. Tuskegee was designed for young people to be the builders of the future institutions African Americans needed. Having students make the bricks that built the buildings at Tuskegee not only helped students develop a work ethic, but it also gave pride to African Americans to be a part of the building of a future Black America that would service its needs and wants.
Where are the institutions at? Your face.
Boston continues. This list could go on almost indefinitely because Washington's entrepreneurial philosophy was so far reaching. He broadly influenced African American life and history and is made evident by the cases of the aforementioned individuals selected from among African American entrepreneurs, leaders, and members of the intelligentsia. This recurring attention given to Washington's entrepreneurial ideas reflects the continuous search by members of the African American community for strategies and solutions that will gain them practical first class citizenship, economic power, and societal influence. Past uplift activities, for example, a resurgence of African American political power during the presidency of Franklin D. Roosevelt, the civil rights movement, the election of Barack Obama to the US presidency, and so forth, although extremely helpful, have not completed the job. It also reflects the realization that higher levels of self-help efforts are still needed and that Washington's economic program was and perhaps still is viable. As alluded to below by political analyst Earl O'Farrill Hutchinson, the new civil rights revolution of today is about economic development. I'm going to say that one more time. I'm going to say that one more time. Quoting Earl O'Farrill Hutchinson, who is he's in the line with the Du Bois types. He says the new civil rights revolution of today is about economic development. Now,
It's not about not about alphabet or nothing.
As we have talked about in this series, Du Bois was the person who separated civil rights from Black economic expansion. It used to be one and the same. Booker T. Washington had the idea of
your
Black
business has to back your politics.
Yes, right. His strategy was different. The things that people are pissed off about Booker T. Washington is his strategy. But the question you have to ask yourself is, did his strategy bring results to Black people? Yes. His influence has been so great. His influence was the impetus of the kickoff of the Harlem Renaissance in Harlem. because of the people who actually help Black people be able to get to be able to live in Harlem, which they weren't able to do at one point. And then people from his National Negro Business League was able to get a foothold in Harlem. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
When we tell y'all that Booker T. Washington's presence looms very much over Black America, we're not playing. This is why Dr. John Henry Clark said he was our best leader. He did not say that flippantly. He meant it. And I dare anybody with any educational credentials to go against Dr. John Henry Clark. I dare you. Because you're going to be made to look like a fool. Okay? One more time. The new civil rights revolution of today is about economic development. Oh, now y'all need some money now. How
Well,
is that?
as soon as we, I was gonna be snarky. Never
No,
mind.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Go be snarky.
I was gonna say, just as soon as we get them back to the table, all right? Get them back to the table, then economic, right?
No, what we're going to find out, what we're going to bring to y'all, we're going to bring the proof that all of this hating on the blue collar Black men in Black America did not come from Black females. Sorry. Sorry. It came from your Black intelligentsia. Not the gynocracy. But that's a story for another day. How is it that different from what Booker T. Washington was advocating a century ago? Whether or not we are where we should be or want to be with economic development in the Black community, there has always been a strong emphasis throughout on business and entrepreneurship as well as on education. So people need to recognize that when you talk about Booker T, you're not just talking about him from a business perspective. You have to involve the educational side as well, because it was a 1-2 punch. It was a 1-2 punch. At Tuskegee, they were not just being taught trades; they were being taught how to do business too. This is why many of our forefathers were able to, with sixth grade educations, be able to do business, because that was the spirit that was animating during this particular time. I told y'all earlier, the free Blacks in the 1700s, they were building schools in Africa. Kind of makes you want to rethink what you think you know about your own history.
Exactly.
Because you've been played. And the people who's played you the most have been the ones who got the most educational credentials.
I was gonna say that there's a hint of irony there.
Right. But this is the very same class of people who, right, as we're going through this, are having to revisit somebody like Booker T. Washington. And let's be quite clear, because we don't know if y'all have been paying attention. Where are all these educated people that's in a space who don't want to cover this topic? Where they at? Why they so quiet on it? Why they making minstrel show videos instead of covering this topic? Why are master teachers using internet videos to try to talk around what we talking about over here? I thought this was a space about thinking Black men. And last time I checked, scholars and academics don't use internet videos to respond to scholarly presentations. They do research.
Text, something.
I didn't give y'all videos. I'm giving you information, data, and not feelings either. Because see, now we have the Black intelligentsia through what we're referencing that's making our case for us. So We ain't wrong. The black intelligentsia who is recognizing that Booker T. Washington wasn't wrong aren't wrong. So that leaves the people who want to just keep the circle jerk going. And they want to turn this space into a 24-hour minstrel show.
You see Jay Gammon's comment right there.
Absolutely. Jay Gammon, absolutely. Because we're going to show that the biggest sellouts in Black America are the ones who got the master's degrees and PhDs, who lead you down a path of apathy and failure, because they're constantly trying to make you look at yourself as a victim when your history has been anything but victim.
But that goddamn opposite.
Right? There has always been a strong emphasis throughout on business and enterprise and entrepreneurship, as well as on education. These themes started with Booker T. Washington. Hutchinson, unbeknownst to him, brought back two concepts that were never separated to Booker T. Washington. Those concepts are civil rights and economic development. As we have already demonstrated, Washington was not against politics. He was for using business to segue into the political arena in a responsible manner. As Malcolm X said years ago, politics is warfare without bloodshed, and Washington did not want to see African Americans lose their lives because of political agitation by intellectuals who did not have to deal with the potential violence perpetrated against African Americans post-slavery and post-Reconstruction. Hutchinson also notes how this was a strategy Washington advocated over 100 years ago. Washington stated his strategy could take over 100 years to submit. Imagine if Washington's strategy would have been adhered to. How many more black banks could we have? How many more insurance companies could we have? How many more real estate development companies? How many more Tuskegees could we have? As we reflect on Booker T. Washington, we also must reflect upon ourselves. Are we doing our best to build institutions that best support our interests? Do we have toilet paper companies, or do we have to buy it from others? It might seem funny, but during the height of the pandemic, we learned that toilet paper became a much needed commodity. How dependent were we on others for basic needs during the pandemic? How vulnerable were African Americans in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina? If another devastating storm hit a predominantly black area, do we have the business, logistical infrastructure to come to their aid, or will we be regarded as refugees in a country we helped build? Who needs another savior? What Booker T. Washington wanted for African Americans was economic independence, as well as the securing of our civil rights. He didn't want African Americans to be viewed as a people who couldn't do for themselves, and recognized that people would not respect a group of people like that, and he wanted African Americans respected. He did not view African Americans as incapable at all. He viewed African Americans as being ready to meet the challenge that we faced during the Nadir. Tuskegee was the epicenter of his business philosophy in action, while the Negroes Farmers Conference and the National Negro Business League were two entities that manifested his ideals in tangible ways which are still needed much today. African Americans owe a debt to Booker T. Washington, which he would only want to be paid one way: building black institutions for the betterment of black people. If we do that, that is how we show respect for the legacy of Booker T. Washington. A legacy that needs to be taught to all African Americans, no matter the gender.
Yeah, and just looking at Jay Gammon right there, like, yeah, that one kind of smacked him. And Jay, we said this on the last live stream. We said that a lot of this stuff is probably gonna piss you off a little bit, right? Because like you said, that's a bar. We will be refugees in a country we built. I would call that prophetic. Dare we call that a prophecy?
Yeah. Um, the one thing that we're not going to do over here at the Brain Trust, we're not going to BS you. If we're saying some things that's going to piss you off from the vantage point that we speak from, then we're doing good work. Because once you dig in the crates and you see what we have seen from a historical perspective, you should be pissed the fuck off. Okay?
Seriously.
You should be. Your anger should be boiling. Because many of us could have started things long before we came to this type of information. Because we would have had the confidence to do so. Because we would have known our history of the people who went before us who did it.
Yep.
Now, this is not about beefing, but this is about exposing who the real enemies are. And I'll be the first one to say it, because I have experience in academia. And I'll be the first one to say, as far as I'm concerned, the majority of black academia is the enemy of black people. I will say it. I don't give a damn who. I don't care who gets offended. I don't give a shit. When you have PhDs in these space acting like fucking clowns and buffoons, thug life rejects, how do you expect us to be taken seriously out here? Because see, we not acting buffoonish. We not on some clown type stuff. We bringing y'all the data, man. We giving y'all the information.
And literally speaking from the position of the ancestors, and I mean that shit literally and metaphorically.
I know this goes against all y'all teaching, and it makes sense. It doesn't take people that long to forget who they are. It don't take that long.
You can do that. You could do that in just one generation.
One generation. Your educational setup and much of the educational setup in the United States, especially for black people, has been to try to get you to forget who you are and what you have done. One of the main reasons why I never liked to look back at slavery, because it was never something that I viewed as something to be inspired by. Because how can you be inspired by you getting your ass kicked? Ain't nothing inspirational about that.
I always kind of saw it as a before you think you're too big for your britches, just understand you came from that class of people type of right, just taking you down a peg type shit.
Now, what we're going to show when we deal with this academic and business clash, which really was one-sided, what we're going to show is how black people influence America and its educational system. Because when you go back to the 1700s, when you look at public education, especially in the South, there was no foundation to public education, even for white people in the South. You know who took a high premium on higher education? Free black people did. Free black people introduced the trade aspect into the high school atmosphere. Something white people came along and copied years later. While y'all thinking that white people introduced this to the school system, Nah, it was free blacks who did it. Now, this is a question that you got to ask yourself. Because I'm a mere layman. I'm a capitalist. I've been to college, but business is my thing. But if somebody like me, a layman, if I can find the information, why can't your PhDs find it? Or do they want to find it? That's the real question.
I'm just trying to figure out why this brother right here that we're discussing in this 4 going on 5-part series, why this isn't like shit standard reading. You know, why you would think that this would be the cornerstone of black culture in terms of educating ourselves. You would think.
Yeah. Your own intelligentsia has hidden the black business class success. You wonder why y'all are so turned off from business? You wonder why there's so many black males in this space who fight against the black business class? Because it's a historical experience. It's been passed down. The only group of people who will sit there and lie about the business success, like your E. Franklin Frazier's. So somebody who many people's master teacher loved to quote, who referred to black business success as a myth. But see, what we're going to show, and especially in one of the guys I referenced, John Sibley Butler's work, is that when you put black people's response to the oppression in their environment by responding by becoming business people, their response was no different than other groups of people who have been oppressed in other situations. Whether it's the small hats, whether it was the Japanese in California.
Yep.
We responded just like other groups of people. We got to work. And much of that response gave black people a lot of credibility. The reason why Booker T. Washington could be invited to the White House by Teddy Roosevelt was because he was doing something. He wasn't invited just because they was cool like that.
You know, kind of like how today, you know, where like Cardi B gets invited.
Making a clown of black people.
What the?
Nah, that wasn't going down like that. They didn't invite Josephine Baker to the White House. Yeah, she was pretty and all, but no dice.
Yeah, no dice.
They invited a man who was serious, that was trying to make a deal. And if you're not willing to sit down and make a deal with your enemies, then you're prepared to be in a state of continuous war and agitation that you really don't have the means to even win on that front anyway. So we're bringing this information to bear because we're sick of a lot of these black males. I'm not going to call them men because they're not. We're sick and tired of these weak dudes trying to pass off for the last 100 years. And let's be very clear, all your educational institutions and all the disciplines for the past 100 years have been predominantly created by men, including in your black studies departments and all of that. Yes, a lot of black females have taken these classes. They have learned a lot of this rhetoric and all this type of stuff. But guess who was pushing it though? It was males.
And
So if you want to know who turned black females against blue collar men, all you got to do is look at the words. Look at the words written by your academics, your sociologists, like your Du Bois and your E. Franklin Frazier's.
Right.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah, black success is a myth.
We ain't got to make it up. All you got to do is get the Black Bourgeoisie book and read it.
Black success is a myth. You know what that says, everybody? You know what that says? That says that, you know, productivity is kind of like, it's not really anything that's important, right? You see, so what comes out of that, even if it does enrich you and you see it as a success, that's not really what's important here. Never mind, it's that type of thing that allows for the establishing, the stabilization of society, of your communities and societies and stuff like that. Never mind the importance of having a business class, having infrastructure, and having institutions and all that, right? And having it function in such a way where it actually produces, it actually makes things better. I would dare say call that a success. But see, what we're going to do is call that a myth. You see? So what that does is that gets out of your head that any efforts that you put in, anything that you do, right, to be productive really doesn't mean shit at the end of the day, right? And that your problems actually lie external.
Right.
There's nothing that you yourself you can do. Sounds like a common trope in the manosphere, doesn't it? I'm sorry. Go ahead, dude. I didn't mean to.
I was looking for this letter that I sent you and Sandog about here it is right here.
Wait, is that the one letter?
Now,
You want to share the screen? Is that one letter?
it's on my phone.
Email it to me.
Okay, so now
so we can share it. I want people to see it.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Let me read it first.
All right.
Now, this is a letter that W.E.B. Du Bois wrote to John Hope, who was the president. I think it was Atlanta Seminary or Atlanta Baptist College, something like that, before it became Morehouse College. Now, to understand how full of crap this letter is, you have to know that Booker T. Washington was, according to the history, in slavery. So this is going to show you how much hyperbole was in this particular letter. Okay. Now this letter is dated. One of his relatives released his letter, so this was made public. This was, let me see. This was a letter, January 22nd, 1910. So this was 5 years before Booker T passed. This is Du Bois to John Hope. My dear Hope, you must not think that I have not known and appreciated your friendship for me, or that I have ever doubted or doubt now your loyalty to the principles which we both so sincerely believe. If I thought even that you were going back on those principles, my friendship is not of so slight a texture that I would easily give you up. Of course, I am sorry to see you or anyone in Washington's net. It's a dangerous place, old man, and you must keep your eyes open. At the same time, under the circumstances, I must say frankly, I do not see any other course of action before you but the one you took. In your position of responsibility, your institution must stand foremost in your thought. One thing alone you must not, however, forget. Washington stands for Negro submission and slavery, representing that with unlimited funds, he can afford to be broad and generous, and most of us must accept the generosity or starve. Having accepted it, we are peculiarly placed and in a sense tongue-tied and bound. I may have to place myself in that position yet, but by God, I'll fight hard before I do it. I know, however, that you, my friend, are going to do the right as you see it, and I'm too sensible of my own shortcomings and mistakes to undertake to guide you. As I have said so far, you have done what you had to do under the circumstances. I only trust that the pound of flesh demanded in return will not be vital. I thank you with greater feeling than I dare express for your kind letter. Did y'all hear that bullshit?
Can you send that to me, man? I want to.
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
want.
send it to you.
I want people to see the letter,
Okay.
and then go ahead and like explain that, man.
I sent it to your Washington one.
All right.
Now, first of all, his comment about, well, let's give you the backdrop. Booker T. Washington donated some money to Morehouse College. So he was helping another Black institution stay afloat. But because he had the means and the wherewithal to exert his influence in ways that Du Bois couldn't, he tried to make it seem like Booker T. Washington was this bad guy.
Do you all see this right here? Does everybody see this? Do you guys see this? Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, I can see it over there. All right. This is the letter right here. This is it.
Now, y'all got to understand how over the top this shit really is. To say that a man who was in slavery, who has built institutions trying to make sure Black people do not be a dependent group of people, who George Washington Carver worked with, he is literally sitting here saying that Booker T. Washington wants Black people to submit and be in slavery to white people.
Yeah, let me put this link in the chat so they get it.
Do y'all understand? Now this is y'all scholar now. These are y'all scholars. I brought the scholars in.
There you go. There you go, right here.
Y'all see how emotional y'all scholars are?
Up to no good.
Do y'all see how emotional y'all scholars are? To say some goofy, dumb shit like that. When he said, in terms of extracting your pound of flesh, that's a reference to Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice, Shylock, the small hat, who in the story is looked upon as some parasitic person who played the game of white Europeans in Italy, but when he beat them at their game, they try to make it seem like he was a bad dude. Because the dude was willing to exchange a pound of flesh to get a loan from Shylock. That's what he's comparing him to. He's comparing him to a vulture and a parasite.
That's bullshit.
That's, yo, on some real shit, man. On some man-to-man shit, yo, he needed to get knocked the fuck out.
Like, for real, like, you need to get seen over that shit, man.
Like, for real. I'm gonna keep it 100, dog. And this is where your insult type. Now, these are supposed to be the most intelligent people. These are supposed to be the learned people, your master's, PhDs, who are the ones who are so quick to resort to ad hominem attacks. But I thought y'all got the right argument, though. See, we got a practical, simple one. That's why we win and they lose. And that's why they get all agitated. Because that's all they know how to do is agitate. They can't build a sandcastle, though. Meanwhile, they got y'all agitating and angry for 100 years.
And the only thing that it's gotten you is laws passed in the name of civil rights, which the benefits of such has literally just been passed on to other people. In a nutshell.
Do y'all understand how much of a weak ass letter this is, man?
I put the link there. You guys can check it out for yourselves.
Now, see, this is what we do over here. See, we do the research. See, we don't. This ain't feelings right here.
Yeah, we're not just giving you our opinions. This
is just men stepping back and looking at what was written. He put it to the paper, and when you sit down and write some stuff, you really are thinking about what you're saying. So this ain't no accident. This ain't no I got mad and I just said some silly dumb shit. Nah, that ain't what this is. When you put that pen to paper, you are in the right frame of mind. You are in a conscious state of mind of writing what you really feel.
Dude, he put it on the school letterhead.
Come on, dog.
He put it on school letterhead. Department of Sociology.
This is
a piece of my mind.
Man. This is your black male academics. Let me rephrase that. This is what your black male academics have been giving you. Hate. You know, like 3-6 Mafia and Cash Money said years ago, player, why you hating? This is it right here. This is it right here. This is hating right here. This is from an academic perspective. And this is why y'all have to do your research. This is why you have to read, because you need to know what really happened, so you don't be buying into some bogus type stuff, man.
But look, dude, it's the same fucking logic that has a Dr. Umar Johnson sitting up here talking about, well, a lot of the problems in the community is because successful black men left. Like, dude, you guys come in, you espouse all this bullshit that literally does negate, right? Black business people and black success, i.e., the myth of it, right?
Right.
Only to then turn around and be like, well, the problem is when they got successful, they left. Okay, which one is it, motherfucker? Is it a myth or not?
How you gonna sit here and try to make it seem like, whoa, you gotta take up on these sisters and stuff like that, because y'all gotta do stuff and blase this, when y'all the same class when the black men did do that stuff, y'all hate it.
Like, you motherfuckers got to pick
I'll be the first one to say, like, yeah, I think this has been mostly white people stuff. Like, I'll be the first one to say it. That's what I saw. But y'all cannot mistake the level of influence that your educational school system, especially from a college perspective, how much influence that has on black people, and how much these sociologists and philosophy majors and all these type of people who every time they give you a stream, they're giving you a stream about a narrative of how you getting your ass kicked, slavery this, they got you in pain all the time, because they know that's how they know that's how you're gonna throw your money to them. And don't say, why don't they do a stream on black business? Like, why don't they do a stream on the history of black business? If they could do it, they could do it on everything else. If you could talk about slavery, why you can't talk about the business apparatus that came after slavery? What's more inspiring? The point
I was gonna say, like, dude, like
the point where you was actually building some shit. Which one is more inspiring?
Like, I'm just saying, dude, like, you have people, like, as we're being told by the narrative, fresh up out of slavery, right, getting shit cracking. And in today's time, with all this technology, right, apps and access to global markets and stuff, all of a sudden we can't do shit. Oh, wait, hey, just let me do this, dude, real quick. I'm gonna answer this question, and then, bro, I'm gonna step away for a second. There is a mosquito biting the shit out of me right now, dude. I swear to God, bro, I got like about 5 bites on my, I'm like, motherfucker. So I need to handle this, dude. But let's see here. This was the question. Jay Cameron, does the Black Brain Trust have a reading list? But for this one, we do. It's my bad. I gotta put it in the description.
Yeah,
he texted me the list. I do have the list from what he's reading from.
Yeah,
I do.
We'll create one.
Yeah, so I'll get that, and then I'll put Amazon links, and I appreciate you, Yori, for that. Just like what he did, I'll grab the Amazon links for all of the reading materials that he's referencing, because he did send me a list. I gotta put them in the description, so that's on me. I'll update that for you, Jay. Hey, let's do this, man. Let's take a quick little break, man. I'm gonna go run to the restroom. Oh, Johnny Blaze is in the house. What's going on, brother? Welcome.
Peace, Johnny Blaze.
Yeah, let's take a quick intermission, man. Let me handle this mosquito real quick. We'll be right back, y'all.
The link that I just dropped is a book by John Sibley Butler, and he's the professor at UT that I reached out to, who has really, in my estimation, has really elevated this conversation in terms of the history and the importance and the impact of the Black business class. This is a great book. This is a must. This is a top 5 book that you will have in your collection. This book is really this powerful, and he has done a lot of work in different countries as well, business wise. This book really opens up a lot of the history. What you will find in here, he has it down to the numbers in terms of the money that Black churches, because at a certain point, Black churches used to be a significant space of economic activity for Black people, and how the Black church, going back to the 1700s, was very instrumental in building schools for Black people, because especially in the South, white people didn't even place a high premium on higher education, even for other whites. So even the class value of going to college, getting education, being educated, so you can be productive for your family and your group. That is not even a white ideal. That even though a lot of Black people will try to attribute like you doing that as being white, trying to be white, they don't even know they're sounding so stupid, because if they look back in their history, they will find that this was a Black ideal from free Blacks that white people later on and came and copied, like many of them have done a lot of things. And so this book really opens you up to that part of the history. He goes into some of the inventions that a lot of Black men created in the 1800s. He had a whole table of this. He gives you a lot of data, that you can really sink your teeth into. And what you're going to realize is that you're going to read this book. If you get it, you're going to get pissed off, because you're going to realize that you've been had. I've been doing a lot of research, and I know enough about what's going on, but for the people who don't really know, like just be prepared to get pissed off, because you're going to get pissed off, because you're going to realize that a lot of the people who look like you have been hiding your own history and your own greatness from you, which could have inspired you to be great in your own right in earlier times than now when you're getting it now. Not to say that none of y'all are great in your own right, but maybe you could have got to a bag earlier had you known about this history.
Yeah, and I mean, I think actually, because you remember what he said was this would be something that we wouldn't see really, until 100 years, right? So 100 years into the future. So we are literally at that 100-year mark from the time that statement was made. What better time than now? That's why we're like, yeah, this is kind of more of like a shock to the system. This is going to jolt you, piss you off, right? But then there's what we have to then move forward with from there, right? Because it's already been given us. There's already the roadmap. Everything's already been given to us.
Right.
The question becomes soaking this all in and then applying it in this new fourth industrial age.
Right. Basically, we're just waking Black people up to those who want to hear it and who care about having institutions that represent them. We're just waking you up to a history that was already yours anyway. Like, we're not creating anything that wasn't before. Like, we're just continuing the tradition of what it used to be, which is what we covered earlier. Like, that's the fact that your Black academics have to revisit Booker T. Washington mean they failed. That's just the facts. They failed. Because they made the argument that integration was going to solve Black people's problems. Well, Black people got it. And it don't look like Black people's problems are solved. Matter of fact, it looked like things are a little worse.
Just if you were to give my honest opinion on it.
So, a lot of people don't really want to have this conversation, and I know why. Many of the academics don't want to have this conversation, because it would expose them. Because it would expose them for feeding you intellectual garbage for over 100 years.
Like literally, like the equivalent of like McDonald's.
That's what they've been giving you. That's what they've been giving you.
Yeah.
And
hey, I was gonna say, Johnny Blaze, you do sound white, bro. No, I'm playing. I'm playing. No, go ahead, man.
I just dropped a link in the chat dealing with the Encyclopedia of African American Business History. We're going to be covering a lot from this particular resource. Yeah. So be prepared.
Them crates is deep right there.
And hold on one second. You already wants to drop the link. for us business geeks, man, we are loving this information. Like we already hard body on this business stuff. Knowing this information just accelerates it. Like it just like
What it does is what it does for me, man. I'm gonna tell you straight up, man. It kind of reinforces things that I've always kind of felt, right? Things that I've intrinsically just been driven to do, not out of any kind of influence or anything, right? And so for there to be, for there to be a presence where, prior presence, let's just say from a generational standpoint of of men who resemble me and look like me and reflect me, who have the same mindset. That's inspiring, dude, because it's like I said, man, from what I'm told, like everybody was just picking cotton and shit. And all this type of stuff. And I'm not denouncing the slave narrative, but what I'm saying is that that's all I was ever told as a kid.
right.
Yeah,
But there was
that's all
something
they
in me
ever
that
told
knew better.
all of us. Yeah.
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 What's going on, Iori? How you doing, man?
Peace, bro. Peace.
Hey, brother. Much love to you guys, man. Yeah, it's oh man. You guys hit it out of the park with this one, man. Just gotta say.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
like when the people that are lying and speaking weakness into people are 10-1, man. That's why everybody lost out here. You got everybody over, everybody that everybody knows. Everybody speaking weakness into them, and the thing is, like, most people don't understand that the classical black businessman is still here. They just don't pay attention. People like Don Peoples, people like Robert Smith, people like Reginald Lewis. I mean, they're all over the place. You just don't realize it though, right? So I mean, I was talking to Jay Gammon, and I was telling him, like, you can read through the comment section, that there's a difference between the classical black business archetype and the people that you usually see. And technically, the classical black business archetype is what Booker T was talking about. He's talking about that whole system. You get your money up, you start buying influence, buying politicians, and then you get full scale wholesale change. He been talking about it, but it's always been these ineffectual pro, almost PWI, you could say, because the way these people talk, man, like you can hear the way they think in how they talk. They never gonna say anything positive. They ain't never gonna feed into people the energy that they need.
Right.
That's not kind of like see, it kind of runs counter to that, right? If what you do is speak for a living, and I'm not saying this is I'm not saying this is a good or bad thing, right? I'm observing, and based on what it is that you speak about, sometimes you need people to be in a certain state, right, to give you the attention for you to speak to them.
Yeah,
right.
You're right.
So then you question, okay, well, what people are going to be present for that? Right now, I'll tell you this much: is not going to be like people who are more business minded. That doesn't do anything for them. Like, why would you want to put your attention there? You know what I mean? So, there's I think it was Jay Gumman. He might have made a comment earlier in the live stream where, or no, I think it might have been Jamal, where he mentioned something to the effect of, like, basically they've taken the different classes and put us all together, right? And then made these social issues blanket for everybody, when we know that how you orient from a class standpoint largely determines the type of shit you encounter or run into in society. That's not to say that, you know, if you are successful or something, that all of a sudden life is devoid of any kind of, you know, injustice or anything like that. That's a goddamn lie, right?
Yeah.
However, living a certain way, conducting ourselves in a certain manner, and I'm not talking about just individually speaking, but like as a group of people, largely mitigates a lot of bullshit. So a lot of stuff is self-perpetuated, and then there's an external reason, right, that we can point to this big boogeyman up in the hills, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
And as long as we keep projecting it out at that boogeyman up in the hills, we'll never actually do the internal work.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You're right.
Well, the thing is see, I'm looking at this more sinister. And it'd be one thing if we didn't have it. Because I'm not going to try to claim something that we didn't have. If we never did it, then shit, we never did the shit. And that's okay. It doesn't say that we can't. We just never did it. But when I'm shown that we actually did it, and that we actually did it to the point that white people copied and stole the shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then a Negro with a funky ass college degree from a predominantly white institution is going to write some bullshit and try to erase it from history to the point, just like they do in this space, just like what they try to do to the brain trust. They try to work around the brain trust as if we don't exist. Yeah. It's the same shit.
It's literally the same thing.
It's the same
This
thing.
is nothing new. That's when I'm ready to go to war. Because look, it is not scholarly to do the research. And when you find something in your research that you feel can upend your position, in terms of ethics, you hide it because it doesn't support your narrative that you want to sell.
As opposed to readjust your position giving in light of new information.
If your position is refuted, then that means what? You have to drop it. You got to drop it, or you got to figure out some more information that you think that you can bring to bear that can reinforce it, that can get you to win. But if you can't get the win, you don't keep doubling down. You don't hide the information. One of my professors in college, I never forget when he said this, and this was a white dude. I never forget when he said to me, he said, one of the things that makes your papers strong and your position strong is when you have the confidence to incorporate in your body of work positions that you don't agree with.
Yeah.
He said it reinforces your position because it shows that you can take in a diametrically opposed viewpoint, insert it, and still make your case. The fact that these dudes are unwilling, and these we're talking about dudes that got PhDs, man. So I don't want to hear no scary type stuff because y'all ain't gonna come around here popping all that PhD. I brought the PhDs and all this type of stuff, and then you're gonna be scared to have a conversation.
Well, you know,
you're gonna be scared to have a conversation. You're gonna act like you ain't heard nothing. Man, this Booker T series should be on everybody's lips.
Yeah.
I don't care whose channel. I don't care who it is. It should be like, yo, man, I might not like them dudes, man. But this is some stuff that we really need to talk about.
Yeah. But Rael,
hey, Yori, real quick, I just wanted to, because Ike just joined us, man. I wanted to welcome him on.
Oh, what's up, Ike?
Yeah, what's going on, Ike?
What's happening, bro? What's happening?
Hey, what's up? Good read, good series so far. I've been catching them. I'm not sure if it was a previous one of these or some of the conversation recently on the Black Brain Trust. that something came up, but I have a question regarding it. And
Yeah,
you were
what's up?
there, complex. So I think you remember there was someone who showed up and made the statement that the the highest level male, or like the highest level male aspiration, peak maleness, if you will, does
Mhm.
not exist in the Black community. That basically they have to leave the Black community. Do you remember what I'm talking about,
Yeah, yeah,
complex? Okay.
yeah.
So obviously it was, touched on and briefly, and I think that we all kind of generally have. I think I know what it's meant, but
Mhm.
I wanted to ask what you think he meant, and if anybody cares to comment on
Yeah,
the statement, basically that the
yeah.
peak maleness does not exist within the Black community. It has to get out of there in order to breathe.
Yeah, okay. I think any peak anything is sort of like a new meme. It's a new social meme, right? If we, that's a new concept, right? Now I will interpret that as productive black man or
Mhm.
productive black men, right? Because if you're being productive, dude, you're at your peak.
Mhm.
Okay, and that
Yeah,
means
When
that
you
and
when
and
that
you're
mean
when
and
you're
that and that
peaking, when
means
you're
that
peaking.
that means also that you can also grow that peak, right? As you go
Mhm.
on,
mhm.
as you progress, like that myth of success, as they call it. No, it's a real thing, and as you move forward, you can that peak grows. Okay, see, so I think peak male, uh, it does exist. The problem is that we negate productive black men as a cultural imperative.
Right.
It's like a standard, right? That's the thing. There's no importance to it. See, so that peakness has to come through some sort of hypersexual function. Rapper, the biggest baddest athlete, or
Athlete.
running
Yeah.
back or some shit.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? It's totally misplaced as an ideal.
Mhm.
Why? The question is why. So obviously, it's not a question of existing in space and time. We know peak
Yeah.
Black maleness exists in space and time, but it's a question of outside the culture. Yes, yes. So yes, we all. I agree with you there that it's a question of outside the culture. You're saying that the culture negates it. The question is, well,
Why?
why does it
Let me answer this.
negate it?
Yeah,
Let me
because
get
it's
this.
gonna. Ryle's gonna say because it has a lot to do with what we're discussing.
Yeah, let me get this. The reason why that exists is because most of us never understood what the argument has been about for the past 100 years. And the argument for the past 100 plus years has been a fight between socialist and communist leaning people against capitalists and industrialists. So now we have the frame. So if you're socialist and capitalist leaning and your mindset is America is corrupt, you can't do anything here, they're going to try to hold you back. If that's your leaning, okay, cool. But when a black person within the system shows that they're capable of achieving success in the same system that your whole stance on is you can't be successful, that throws a monkey wrench in your argument. So what do you have to do? You have to hide the black success to make your argument.
Yeah.
You have to hide it. You have to hide it. You have to diminish it. One of the ways that you diminish it is doing one of the most despicable things that you can do to black people, let alone black men, is to attribute it to being white.
Or calling you a
Yeah.
sellout.
That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
When they call you white, that is the Du Bois did this to Booker T. Washington.
Yeah.
He questioned his masculinity. When you call a man a sellout, I don't give a damn what group you in.
Yeah.
If you call a man a sellout, first of all, you're questioning his loyalty to the group, number one. Number two, you're challenging and questioning his masculinity. It's very, it's very purposeful when you do it. No man who, especially who is not of that ilk, wants to be attributed to that. It's almost like you have to disprove a negative. That's the reason why Booker T. Washington has not gotten the credit that he deserves, because that's what's been attributed to him for all these years. Ironically, it's the very academics who have done this to him who are trying to go back to him. and revisit what they
Right.
have done. Okay.
Well, that in itself shows that Booker T won because here's the thing, right? The Chamber of Commerce, the way that they functioned and did what they did, was taken from Booker T. Washington in his original plan.
Yes, sir.
So this whole thing, uh, the other thing, Ryle, that I really want to bring up a little bit is the reason that the classical black business person and the classical black man has been subjugated is because those were the people that actually got what they got in terms of like the whole thing with the civil rights movement. It was people like that. So those people in general are a threat to people that don't want those kinds of political reforms to happen in itself. That's why you have people not knowing anything about those people because they're a threat. They want those people to be 100 feet under mentally for people not to remember.
Right.
It's pretty. It's pretty.
Because it's within the situation. Go ahead though. Yeah.
Oh no, I was gonna say, Eori, it's pretty insidious. It's pretty insidious, dude. It's like, on the one hand, you can't ignore the greatness and the vision, but at the same time, it does kind of run counter to our current cultural narrative. You know what I'm saying? It's some bullshit, dude.
And that current cultural narrative is there for that reason.
Right.
It's because the imagery they want to produce is the bullshit imagery that we see. Nobody, we don't see people like Robert Johnson and Reginald Lewis and all these people. That was the typical way to get this done. And there's a reason they don't want that to be shown anywhere. You got to go somewhere
outliers,
underground to find that stuff.
Well, see what that is that, and I'm gonna bring Wackio and on this. So they're outliers, right? See, so that's not supposed to be the norm.
They want it that way.
But no, that's the whole point. Well, that's the whole point. If what you do is you get people to think that right there, number one, if they are successful, that's not real success; it's just a myth. And then two, you act like that's just you. Everybody can just do that. You know what I mean? It's just like, hey, those dudes, they got lucky. They met the right such and such and this and that. But that's not everybody. And see, so it's a diminishing.
It's always.
It's always a fucking diminishing, dude. It's a constant and a consistent thing. It's never like a celebration of successes. Like I said, we're supposed to think that success is just but a myth.
Right. And that's why I brought up Butler in his book, and I dropped the link earlier, because even as it relates to this affirmative action piece, many of the Black people who have benefited through years of affirmative action did not want to use affirmative action as the reason why they got their position. They hated it. And so this notion that it's like they were caught in a catch 22 situation, because they want the position, but they don't want white people or any other people, which is what a lot of Black people, we don't understand how many Black people have had to deal with getting positions in particular companies where they had a management position and they were over other people, and had white people questioning whether they deserved the position or did they get it because they was Black, or working up under certain managers and being worked. Every move that they make was just micromanaged because they had a manager who believed that they got the position because they was Black. Like, we have to really understand like what this lack of business infrastructure for Black people has done a lot of damage to the psyche of Black people, because when you chose to integrate, you took a lot of your brain capacity from your community to build up another group's community.
What did that quote say? It said, you're going to be a slave or a servant in the country you built.
Yeah,
That quote.
that's what Gammon put up. Yeah.
Yeah, that quote.
Right.
What's going on? Oh,
What up, Wack? Like, yo.
hey,
Hey,
he's
what's
getting his
going on?
mic
Y'all can hear
together.
me?
There you
What's
go.
up?
Hey, what's
Yeah,
up,
we
dude?
got you, bro. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
what's going on,
Yeah, we got
everybody?
Cracking.
Yeah. Oh man. First and foremost, I'd like to say screw W.E.B. Du Bois. I mean,
Yeah, for
yeah.
real,
I
for
mean,
real.
this is the same. This is the same individual who teamed up with the American Eugenics Society to convince black people to get sterilized, and he teamed up with the racist Margaret Sanger
Yep.
to convince black people in America to get sterilized. I mean, if that's not a sellout, I don't know what is.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. We
Not
talked
to
about
be off topic, not
Yep,
to be a
no.
little bit off topic, but I'm just giving a little bit more background on this individual who a lot of black people today seem to celebrate. I never celebrate this individual, you know.
Me either.
Yeah, but yeah, especially what he did to try to derail the movement of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, you know, who
Yeah. Yep.
who based on what I've read, who loved Booker T. Washington.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
he did.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, but what I have to say is, you know, this has been a great stream, but
Thanks,
this is
man.
my first episode I've watched concerning the cultural impact of Booker T. Washington and the Black cultural intelligence. But
Man, you gotta
I've-
catch
gotta catch
the
all of
first three.
yeah,
Yeah, we on 4, man, because like we're
Yeah.
stringing them along, we're stringing them together. So
Yeah,
like
but
it's all fitting within a kind of like a theme.
yeah.
So if you catching this one, man, you'll fuck with the first 3 too.
Oh yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
I'll be catching the first 3 on the playbacks. But
That's what's up.
but you know, but Rael, man, great job with putting out these fake black academics who
doubt.
Yeah.
discouraged the entrepreneurial mindset of so-called black people by spreading defeatism in a lot of their conditionings. That's what I call them.
Mhm.
Defeatism. I've even when I've been in college and took African studies, African history, I always hear the same defeatist mindset of, you know, the pale man is taking us down, the pale man is taking me down, the pale man is have this boogeyman power over us, and there's nothing that we can do about it. And
Well, no, but that you can do something about it, Wackio, and then
Of course.
that is do your own thing, right? Which is
Yeah.
what Booker T encouraged us to do. But then as soon as you do that, guess what? You're catching hell from them, right? Oh well, not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. And it's just like, okay,
Right,
well,
yeah.
how do y'all want to handle this shit?
exactly.
That's the thing, bro. They don't.
Yeah.
Don't.
They
And-
don't. See,
And let me tell you,
yeah.
brothers, this, right? I know Complex know this about me, that I come from the Hebrew Israelite community.
Yes, sir.
And one of my biggest problems that I've had with the Hebrew Israelite community for the past 16 years is that they share the same mindset that these fake black intellectuals have when it comes to business and entrepreneurship.
Mm.
They adopt this mindset that, okay, we're cursed black people, we're cursed people, and this pale face guy, you know, have this great power over us, and they will not allow us to thrive unless if we sell our souls to some secret society. This is the mindset that a lot of people within the Hebrew Israelite community have.
Mhm.
And here's the irony. And once again, I'm not trying to go off topic here because I know this is about Booker T. Washington, but
Yeah.
this deals with what Rael spoke about when it comes to fake black intellectuals discouraging this entrepreneurial mindset of black people within the Hebrew Israelite community. When you study the history of the Hebrew Israelite community in America, they adopted similar concepts to Booker T. Washington. I mean, there was so much successful entrepreneurs within the Hebrew Israelite community in America that started right after the Civil War. You had successful independent farmers, successful people that own business concerning trade, like such as welding, such as construction, such as opening their own community centers, opening their own daycare centers, opening their own supermarkets. And I'm saying, okay, now we're in the 21st century where we face, even though as black people, we still have a little struggle, but not as much as people in the past. So in this day and age, where things are a little bit easier than what they was in the past, we're saying we can't do it.
I would say, I would say a lot of it, and I want to get Ike when we get Ike back in on the conversation. I would say actually a lot of it. I really truly, I say we use technology, for very stupid reasons for the most part, right? And we don't
Correct.
use a lot of these apps and stuff that like literally we have on our phones and stuff. These could be making us money. We don't use that stuff for that. We use the bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, you can use WhatsApp to make your international business calls, or you can use WhatsApp, to try to hook up with chicks or something, right? Like the power of the smartphone is something that I think a lot of people just they don't really truly recognize.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say that in this new technological age, this fourth industrial age, Booker T. Washington's message is more pertinent now than at any other time. If you want
100%.
my honest opinion, because truth be told, things are far more easier than it was.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah,
Especially with the ending of affirmative action in college, you had better get to the business of building your own institutions. I promise you, you better get to it. It's the funniest thing to me. I came across this book, um, that's dealing with the white money that funded money that came from like the Ford Foundation and stuff like that funded the Black Studies programs in the United States.
Yeah.
And the irony is, as I'm reading some of this stuff, is that you had Black people who were, arguing and protesting and radicalizing about how they needed to have Black studies in the curriculums of these white institutions while not wanting to build their own Black institutions that teach their own history. That's the irony. Like you're literally going up in white people's stuff and saying, y'all, it's no different than Radio Raheem
going up in the pizza joint
with the radio, telling the Italians why you ain't putting no
why
black
you got no black people up on the
wall.
walls.
Like, dude, make your own goddamn pizzeria and put
Then
them
he
up on
said,
the
"Yo,
wall."
you go open your own pizza joint."
I mean, he took a stand on this like it was so stupid. Like, dude, this is their spot.
Yeah.
And so when you look at this type of stuff, when you look at the fact that Booker T. Washington asked Du Bois twice, he
Come
asked
and
him
teach.
twice to come to Tuskegee to teach, which means he didn't have anything against him. And this is something that I theorize. It's funny that you said is you brought up Hebrew Israelites, Wacky, because in 2014, when I was talking to a group of them, I literally said one of my biggest problems with Black men is that when a competent Black man comes on the scene and shows he's capable of leading, instead of brothers getting on code and getting behind him and forming a brotherhood, you will have some dudes who will try to undermine him, fight him over the power, even though they're not capable of having the power. And
They don't want to take directive.
And they don't want to take direction from a competent Black man. And these Hebrew Israelites, it was older cats. I'm talking about dudes that was in their 60s and 70s.
Oh,
They looked at each other and said, "Yeah, I would agree with that." And this is exactly what happened with Du Bois and Booker T. You can tell that Du Bois had a problem accepting leadership and being under Booker T. Washington.
Yeah.
That was his issue. He didn't have no problem going to them white folks in Harvard. He didn't have no problem dealing with the white folks and the white socialists and small hat socialists and forming the NAACP. But when it came to taking leadership from a we ain't saying a dumb black man. We saying a competent black man. He balked at that, and that's the exact same thing that we're dealing with when you talk about the type of stuff that we've dealt in this space with a lot of these dudes. They so busy trying to be right, they can't even hear the information that they could be using to help themselves. Because they be like, I ain't listening to that fool. And they be the first ones to turn around and talk about how black females don't submit to them. Why? Why would they submit to a dummy?
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, man.
Hey, Raul, I'm gonna step away for a minute. Just hold it down.
And this is the thing, Ra. This is the thing when it comes to so-called black males not being able to be underneath a leadership or not desiring to be underneath the leadership of a competent black male who actually has the leadership qualities. That competent black male who have those leadership qualities can actually make you into a strong leader.
Right.
And it's like, because if you're a soldier underneath who's underneath the leadership of a general, who says that you have to be a soldier forever? That general can teach you how to be a great general.
Sure can.
And the things that the great things that W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington and Marcus Garvey could have done if W.E.B. Du Bois was not so dang on egotistical and jealous, because that's how I felt about W.E.B. Du Bois. He was jealous and egotistical towards those brothers. But imagine the great things they would have done together.
Thank you.
If that black male kept his ego in check and humbled himself. And that's the thing with black males, right? Especially in today. A lot of black males are so emotional. They cannot control their ego. In which I don't know why some black males even have an ego, because the majority of black males, if they have an ego, are not competent at all. They're retarded, okay? But nonetheless, there's this thing with black males in which they are unable to humble themselves, keep their egos in check, and follow a system that works.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then like Rael said, I'm sorry to repeat the things that Rael said. I guess I'm repeating it.
Go ahead.
Then we wonder why we don't get any respect from other groups of people, especially our own women. Like Rael said, who's going to respect a dummy? Who's going to submit underneath a dummy? Nobody. Well, nobody that's smart. But you guys got it.
When you have a woman that has your best interest, and she sees that you have some men in your circle that are on point, she's gonna tell you, hey, you need to stick with those guys.
Yeah.
I like what those dudes talking about. They talking some real stuff. Hey, you need to stick with that dude. Used to be from high school. You need to let him go. But those guys over there, you need to deal with. Go ahead, Ike. It's been a minute.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me just acknowledge, because I came in and I asked a question, and acknowledge everyone's answer. It was pretty good. Rael, you had kind of brought in the political context with regards to, whether it's communism versus capitalism, that kind of stuff, affecting the general discourse in academia, such that, and then somebody in the chat mentioned the sunk cost aspect to which would be a contributing factor to, we've already kind of bet on this path of, as it was mentioned, defeatism, right? Hence, I've already invested so much in this path, might as well just double down, right? That kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the ways in which there's a possibility here that I saw, or as a somewhat kind of outsider in a certain sense, there's a certain, I noticed certain things, and one of the things that I notice is when you want to talk about the individual, when you try to motivate the peak individual, right? Which in my view is the only kind of motivation, right? Which is like, because everybody can use a little bit of drill sergeant to kick them in the butt, especially people who are high performance people and whatnot. They understand that, as Joe Rogan says, you have to wake up every day and kill your inner bitch, right? There is no, coasting or, that kind of a thing. But what I notice is within, let's say, the Black community here in the United States, they tends to want to be like, you're talking about outliers, or you're only just. The way I like to look at it is like there's only one sun, right? It's like, in other words, if you're looking at the highest thing, you're trying to look at the highest thing, and there's the tendency to say, oh, but not everybody can fly up there, so let's not talk about that sun. Let's hide that sun and create this other lamp over here for, the average black man or some shit like that, right? And it just seems to, it's something I just noticed, like culturally, where it's like there is a tendency whenever you talk about the highest type of push, right? The highest type of motivation, the highest type of self-actualization, if you will, to start bringing everything back down to the average. Like, where I'm going with this is, it seems to me to come the feeling aspect of it, the emotional aspect of it that I observe in people. It's almost that there is a fear of that highest push, because it's like, oh, you're going to leave the atmosphere. If you keep flying towards the sun here, you're going to leave the community, right?
Mhm.
And in a certain sense, what they perceive, and forgive me for going on and on, in a certain sense, what they perceive is correct, because there's something about being a peak person, or a striving or looking up at the peak, whether it be the sun in my analogy, or God, or the highest types of motivations of self-actualization, that is above the community. It is above everything. If the highest pursuit is not black, it's not white, it's not blue. It is the highest human pursuit, right? By definition. And there's a fear that, oh, we can't let these men do the highest human pursuit, because then they'll run away from being quote unquote black men, right? Well, it's just my perception, right? I don't know how that comes across to anyone.
No,
No,
you're
Ike,
you're actually spot on, because
Orion, you hear me? I was listening. I had to go step away, but I was listening in. You
Go
know
ahead.
what that fear is, Ike? It's a fear. Okay, we know what a means average is.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about that. Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, okay,
Go
well,
ahead.
and you just follow up on me on this.
No
So
worries,
what
I
it
got
is, it's a fear of raising the means average.
you, man. Yep, yep,
Mhm.
yep.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can agree with that.
Good. You guys got it.
yeah, this whole thing that the exception is the exception and the exception isn't the average. We have to understand that the people that are saying that are failures.
Thank you.
They are the people that keep the average where the average is. God forbid. See, what they don't want to happen is they don't want the average to actually be a higher average. See, because what ends up happening is, if all of a sudden we start talking about the fact that these people aren't the exception, these are the people that should be the average starts to change.
Yes,
It takes time, but eventually it starts to change.
it's the means
Now,
average. Yeah.
correct. That goes to your point, right? And now, if the average starts to change, then the then everything else has to change.
More
And
pressure.
that's what they don't want, because if you want to keep somebody ineffectual, weak, and kind of under somebody's knee, then the average has to be what the average is, without any forward momentum to change what the average is.
And
Right.
if you're extraneous to that, Ike, you're the outlier, quote unquote,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
You're the yeah. You don't apply.
Well,
That,
when you
that outlier word is a slur for people actually trying to be productive.
It's a
That's
bit
what we
of a
really have
yeah.
to understand.
It is a bit of a slur.
Yeah, I mean, well, you're gonna, if you raise the average, you're gonna put pressure on the people who are low performers.
Yes.
So, but this is why this is such a prolific battle of ideas, because you got two seminal figures who had two diametrically opposed worldviews and ethos. On the one hand, you have Du Bois, who had a talented tenth mentality,
Yeah.
who believed that only a tenth of black people at that particular time was capable. Okay. Now, Booker T. Washington had a different perspective. Booker T. Washington believed that he could make any black man productive.
Raise the means average.
Right.
He believed he could make any black man productive. So he didn't look his nose down at black men. When he was going to Hampton, He remembered the black people who gave them their last nickel, their last dime to help him be successful at Hampton, because a lot was riding on him at that particular time.
Correct.
He had no choice but to succeed at that particular time. So he never forgot that. See, what we're talking about here is, which is something that a lot of black people really don't like to talk about and accept, because it kills a lot of debate, and that's the class argument. When we start talking about the class mentality, and you start talking about the class of these types of men who came from the slave experience, look, the boy didn't grow up a slave. He grew up free. He grew up in the North. He went to Harvard. He was in a very comfortable position. So when he's writing Soul of Black Folks and doing all, I mean, they offered John Hope $2 million to fire Du Bois from Atlanta University because he was agitating. And remember, during the turn of the century, you had the Atlanta race riots. Well, really, terrorist attack, really. So could it be that some of the things that was taking place in the South in terms of black people getting attacked, could it be because some of these people who were in a privileged position were speaking out of turn and putting these black people's lives in danger? You just got out of slavery. These white boys just fought each other, a bloody war, and these are the people that you want to agitate at this particular point. This is your strategy. This is your strategy. And so when you look at Booker T, his mentality, he did something similar that Robert Smith did for the black men in Morehouse. There were young black men who graduated Tuskegee who didn't have the money to. They wanted to do farming, but they didn't have the money. So he fronted them the land, and he would even front them the money to build a little property on the land. And what he did was he invested in them to be successful farmers. Because one of the things that he was trying to do, a lot of people don't even realize this, is that by 1900, there was over 757,000 black-owned farms in the United States. Okay?
Yep.
So he was trying to get he didn't want black men to be just farmers. He wanted them to be entrepreneurs. Take your surplus, sell it. And so his mentality was completely different than Du Bois's mentality towards black men. He believed in black men as a collective. Du Bois did not.
Talented.
He had a class. He had a middle class. Okay, I'm black, but I ain't really with y'all type mentality. That's why when you see who he aligned himself with, you see what it is. Margaret Sanger. You know what I'm saying? The whites that he worked with on NAACP. So you got to really look at it for what it is. Like if we were talking about anybody else in this particular time who did that, who sat on the Negro, because that's what it was called before it became Planned Parenthood, the Negro Project, we'd be calling them all type of sellout. Why does he get a free pass? Because black people have bought into the narrative that black academics have sold for the last 100+ years about the black business class.
I mean, what does it tell you about somebody who signs up for something called the Negro Project?
Come on, dog.
Like, dude, that's
That's crazy.
wow. Holy crap,
on,
dude. Wow.
Come on,
Holy
man.
moly.
And black people be the first one on social media talking about, see, they done put all these Planned Parenthoods in black neighborhoods because they've been trying to kill black babies for all these years. And they'll just make it seem like it's just white. And it's like, wait a minute, hold on. Before we get to that point, let's go to the origin. Let's go to the origin. And when we go to the origin of it, we're going to see your black academic sitting on the board.
Jesus Christ.
We're going to see your black academic sitting on the board. You didn't see Booker T. Washington sitting on the board and no shit like that.
Yeah, I don't do like, dude, you know what, man? Tuskegee is like
what
the first HBCU to have a school of veterinary. You know what I mean? Like they had a vet school. Like they weren't thinking about ripping fetuses out. But let's make sure we stay out of that shit.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, so we just really have to, like, we gotta approach history as cerebral men. no no bias, no bias, but just see what it is. And if it is what it is, and a person that we look at as a hero is not really a hero, then we just gonna have to
Then
accept that.
then make him a fucking zero.
Yeah.
Like that's just what it is.
Shit.
But we can't keep selling this mindset to black people that we're not capable because of the system. And we got all these so-called outliers who really aren't outliers, because when you actually do your history, you will actually see that your business development was a normal thing. It is not an outlier type of experience. It is a normal experience that any other group of people who have been oppressed in situations where they were not the dominant power structure, that they turn to. This is a normal thing that oppressed people have done throughout the centuries. Is go to the business world to try to prove to the oppressive class that they belong and they should be respected in the class. So when black people engaged in business, it wasn't just about making money. It was to prove that black people should be treated like humans.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what we have to remember. It was not, them niggas just care about his money. No. This is about proving you live in a capitalist society. Business is at the forefront of what this setup was all about. So one of the things that you're going to have to do as a group of people is prove to other groups of people who are business oriented that you can do it too. Otherwise, you're not going to be accepted amongst them like that.
No, you'll just be accepted as a customer. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
This is rather funny because I had an experience recently on a different channel, not really in this space, but they were a little hotepish, let's say. And I was saying something about money. I was doing my money talk, right? Just blah blah blah. And somebody in there was like, "Oh, you sounding so white, European, something, right?" Like, and I said, "Well, no, it's just a Nigerian thing."
Yeah.
And then he said he did not agree. In other words, he was now telling me that no, there is no black person anywhere or ever, and no black culture, right? Or African culture, or whatever you want to call it, that was about productivity or money or whatever, right? Like, like the Igbos in Nigeria, it's the white man that taught them to be that way, right?
Okay.
I didn't go back and forth with him or anything, but he did kind of was saying that, this is just kind of a Eurocentric, all money, whatever. Somehow thinking that all Africans are just about some kind of weird communism or something like that.
No.
I guess he hasn't heard about Mansa Musa.
Dude, this is the kind of shit we're talking about, dude. Like real facts in the face of common held beliefs, right?
Yeah.
And these common held beliefs they're very much stitched in, right? Especially, we're talking like, I guess we got Ados black culture, right? A lot of these things are literally stitched in to like the black culture fabric,
Identity.
in terms of the narrative and the identity, right? You see, so what we're talking about is it's kind of like an unstitching. Yeah, in a lot of ways, you're kind of unstitching shit, like stitches that shouldn't be there, like how a tailor will clean up a suit. You know what I mean? Because that's what we're talking about here. I mean, this aspect of black history, let's just say, when we're talking about 19th century turning to the 20th century and what was going on, it's murky at best for a lot of black folks in terms of their understanding of that period of time. Okay, a lot of black folks today, modern day black folks, their historical narrative literally starts at the civil rights movement, largely. Right, everything is from a historical narrative. Just think about the holidays that you have. I think it was Jay Gammon. He mentioned something to the effect of like, he's like, "Is there a holiday for Booker T. Washington?" He's like, "No,
there isn't."
But there is one for Martin Luther King, right? There's one for him. And everything that we do in terms of like our celebrations and our cultural sort of practices and stuff largely have to do with civil rights centric struggles, right? We don't go beyond that to a large extent. And if we do, you jump right into you were picking cotton.
Yep.
So that's a very base, very pedestrian understanding of your own goddamn history.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a propagandized view of who you are versus
Yeah.
what the truth really is. That's really what it is. That's why when you guys were talking about that letter, man, I don't even want to read that shit.
We already read it, Yori. That's
We
too
read
I
late.
I know, but the reason I said that is because, like, I'm not going to glorify some shit that's going to speak weakness into us, man. We got enough of that already.
You know, it's a thing. It's in today's woke culture, people have to do anything or whatever it takes to keep the defeatist cancer spreading. I don't know what it is with these types of people, but a lot of people just seem determined to keep this defeatist mindset moving, but at the same time complain about how come black people have never went nowhere, not realizing that one of the main reasons is because this defeatist mindset have been
Yeah.
taught to so-called black people for Lord knows how many decades.
That goes back to the question that Ike was asking, right? And Ike,
Right,
what was
right.
that you asked about? What was it kind of like? How did you frame it? Because we were talking about the means average. How did you frame that question again?
Okay, well, my original question was about that kind of highest level
Yes,
aspiration, right?
yes.
And yes, and then I was mentioning that there's a certain type of fear that is associated that, because at that highest height, you're going to leave us behind, you're going to leave the community behind. But I think that in other cultures, let's say, there is a very clear understanding that, yes, those guys are flying above the clouds,
Mhm.
but don't worry about them, right? Like, let them hover, let them be free. Let's not try to stifle them or pull them down, right? But anyways,
No, and that's all I wanted to kind of revisit that, right? Because to your point, um, that's literally what we're talking about. There's kind of like a fear, unless again it's in the venues that's acceptable for black culture,
Yeah.
i.e., entertainment and sports. Right? We have a favorite sports team. We love a dude that can just bang on dudes, right? Like somebody that can just dunk the ball, hit the three, run the ball or whatever, right? When it comes to the entertainment side, everybody has their reasons why, like, it's totally acceptable for them to be that high flyer, as Ike is speaking to. See, it's acceptable in certain venues of black society. Okay, but as a whole, oh no, man, not at all, man. It is totally not even something that is you know, I I guess you can say looked at as a virtue,
Yeah.
right?
See,
I want to.
but the thing.
I want before you go, because I want to read something that really. I knew about this, but I don't think a lot of people know. Okay, so there's a school in Liberia that is named after Booker T. Washington. It's called the Booker T. Washington Institute, and I'm just going to read just a little bit from the website. I put the link in the chat. It said Booker T. Washington Institute is one of the most notable and premier vocational high school and technical institutions in Liberia. The institution was founded in 1929 with assistance from Americans and is named after an American educator, Booker T. Washington. It is located east of the capital of Monrovia and is situated on 1,086 acres rural campus in Kakata, Orgibi County, and has an enrollment of approximately 2,000 students.
Hmm.
For over 85 years of existence, the Booker T. Washington Institute has made enormous contribution to the human resource development of Liberia. The institution currently runs two programs, the regular vocational and technical program and the accelerated vocational training program. These programs offer courses in agriculture, automotive, electricity, electronics, building trade, from carpentry, drafting, masonry, and plumbing, business, secretarial science and accounting, and domestic science. Our mission is to produce a new generation of ethical and entrepreneurial technocrats, managers, and leaders through participatory, hands-on approach to human resource development. We are now working in the direction of transitioning from a vocational institute to a full-fledged technical college.
Mm.
I rest my case, man.
Dude, come
Yeah.
on,
I
man.
rest my case, man.
What you got on it, Ike, Eori? What you guys got?
Yeah, I mean, what I was gonna say relating to Ike is the reason that they do this stuff. See, we really have to look at the education system from an out of body experience. We are living in a manufactured construct when we're talking about education, and it's an artificially manufactured construct. The None of the stuff that they teach us is really built for anything but an artificial narrative that really has no basis in fact to be put forward. And the reason why it is that way is because you just got to find out where the fuck the money is that these people are getting to build these departments. We ain't funding that shit. So why the hell they gotta give a fuck about what we talking about? Right? And the problem is when you're a student and you're taking these courses, you can't really have an out of body experience in terms of what you're actually consuming at the time.
No, no, no. I mean that's the reason why, you know, good mentorship, right? Having good leadership is always key. Is it's what's important. Like you don't want to send out your students, the younger generations that are going to be preceding you. You don't want to send them out half cocked. You don't want to
Correct.
send them out like if you know, if you intrinsically know what would best prepare them, then that means that everything you do from an institutional standpoint is built to facilitate that. That when they come out, when they matriculate out, right, they're coming out better than you were when you came out.
That's what you want. That's what you want.
You know,
Okay.
and all these people that are in, I would say, the academic system that we talk about, that we have a problem with, it's Django with those people calling the slave master daddy and shit. That's what we're dealing with.
Right.
Well, they're
That's
coming
what
out
we're
worse,
dealing with.
bro. Like they're coming out with, you know,
Right, but
piercings
what
everywhere, multicolored hair, and confused about their own damn gender. Right?
but what I'm saying is, for them, the institution that they work in is daddy for them.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
And they're completely wedded to that outcome.
Right.
So God forbid they're not in a position to say anything like what we're saying. The shit that we're saying is radical to them.
Mhm.
It's normal to us.
Wait, Ike, were you saying something, bro?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Ike getting in. I was gonna say, what's funny is, for as radical as it sounds, it was something that seemed to be on the minds of a lot of black folks at the time of Booker T. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, for as radical as that may seem or sound, actually, it wasn't at the time, and that's another thing to really kind of consider, right? You know, in all of our modernness, right, and all of the things that we basically throw in front of ourselves to say these are issues or problems. Like I said, they were on this type of time and energy, fresh up out of slavery, right? As we're told how awful it
100%.
was, fresh up out of that bitch, they were on it. And like I said, and when you fast forward to today, you mean to tell me with all the tech that you have available, all the the infrastructure and all the your ability to be a passport bro and all this other shit, you mean to tell me you can't get your shit together?
Yeah, you know, the most criminal thing about Booker T is, for everything that he went through, man, he gets no grace from these ungrateful motherfuckers.
What Jay Gamble was saying, dude, you don't even have a damn holiday.
No grace whatsoever.
None.
The most intellectually forward person that gave the most gets absolutely no grace, man. It's the same problem that I have with what they did to Garvey. They made Garvey look like an idiot during the end of his life. Complete pariah.
Well, that was by
That was by
done on
design,
purpose.
obviously.
It was done on purpose.
And it was black socialists and communists who went to the government, who went to the AG of that time, and pushed. They had a campaign called Garvey Must Go, a Garvey Must Go campaign, and these black people pushed for Garvey to be locked up, and it was such an egregious case. Now you know it's egregious when the white man locked you up and 3 years later let you out because the case was so BS.
Yeah.
The problem is that they deported him. He should have been pardoned. It should have been a full exoneration.
Yeah.
But the issue was that it was that class of black people. They wanted Garvey's supporters. And once Garvey was taken from the scene, these people were able to fill the vacuum that was left by Booker T. Washington's death in 1915. They were able to fill the vacuum. And then once they were able to get a really strong footing in academia, man, then the rest was history. The rest was history. Because at that point, there was nobody of their stature. You had black men that were in business, but they didn't have the stature of your Garvey and your Booker T. And so at that particular point, you had, they had free reign to just basically write whatever the hell they wanted, And a lot of people don't realize like how much Du Bois has contributed to the sociological discipline in the United States.
We showed you the letter. So we put the link. We put the link in there. This is proof.
Bullshit ass letter.
Hey, listen, man. We produce receipts for everything we talk about over here. So.
Yeah.
Right.
You guys can see it for yourselves.
Yeah.
But we have to just really like. That's why I said, man, y'all gonna have to read, man. You're gonna get pissed off, man. Yeah. It's gonna be good for you. You're gonna see things that inspire you. That's why I looked up the Booker T. Washington Institute in Liberia, because I learned about it back in like 2012, I think it was. And it just in my journey, it's just through the years, like he's just been looming, and I just been slowly. What changed for me was when I read in this business publication about him and hearing about the National Negro Business League, and I got pissed off because I said, man, I'm in business. I had no idea he did this, And then when I started doing the history and seeing how the U.S. Chamber of Commerce actually got its template from the National Negro Business League through Teddy Roosevelt instituting it, which is the largest business organization in the world. And at that point, it was like, well, why is it good for white people and it's not good for black people?
We can't do it.
I'm like, dang.
It's only good for one of the most powerful goddamn nations on the planet, right? But it ain't good for black folks.
Right.
Well,
Get out of here.
The white man's ice is colder, right, Complex?
I mean, dude, we're talking Antarctica, bro.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So, it's like when we see a black man form the National Negro Business League and not just have black men in it, he had black women in it. And he did a great job in integrating women into the organization. So when you have people coming now talking about, well, we need to have, inclusion and equity and stuff like that. Man, we don't need white people to teach us about how to interact with each other on a respectful level. We did it already.
As I'm saying, like, how did we
do that?
Like, where did this shit go?
They need the help. They don't want to meet you and each other left and right. You know what I mean? So we don't need that type of help. We've already done it. It's just the fact that we just got away from those principles as a collective, and unfortunately, I'm going to say it. I don't care what anybody says. As far as I'm concerned, and this is just my personal opinion, nobody else is over here saying this. I'm just saying this for me. As far as I'm concerned, the black academic class to me is the enemy of black people. I'm saying it. Yeah. I'm saying it straight up, and I stand on it. It's the enemy, and it's been the enemy.
I'll say it like this, right? I think maybe the black technocratic class might be theirs.
True.
I'm
True.
gonna spin it like that
True. True.
Come
because
on, complex. You don't
what?
need them. Come on now, man.
No. Here's the
You
reason why.
you saying you don't need them? Come on.
No. Here's what I'm
That's
saying.
sacrilege.
No, here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying.
I'm just fucking with you.
No. But I'm gonna give some clarity to that, right? Because this is a technocratic platform. And I've said it. I am a technocrat,
Yeah. What's up?
right? I've said that. Matter of fact, I think from what you were just reading, Raul, that the description about that institute and
The Institute.
yeah, that's a technocratic institute. Why? Because technocratic thought is essentially let's just say that is the software we need for the fourth industrial paradigm.
Yeah.
Like I'm like that. That's what I'm saying. Like in this venue over here, right? We're not gonna waver from shit. We've been at this for 5 years and we've just stayed consistent and pretty much literally do 99.6% of everything that we've said and talked about on this platform has won out. Like it's literally manifested, right? So that's why I said, well, another way to look at it is the technocrat is actually like by virtue of our position, we're their natural enemy. Because I'll tell you like this. In my time on YouTube and all that, only thing that we've experienced over here was basically like a stonewalling and a blackballing and a name calling and a behind the scenes sort of trying to quasi shadow ban and all this other shit of this channel here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I also notice that it's okay for us to be talked about on other platforms and no one says a goddamn thing, right?
Yeah.
But then as soon as we do, then it's a problem. See, I'm saying we're a natural enemy to them.
Right.
Right.
Well,
So it's just all it is just it's how I perceive it anyway. Right. It's how I perceive it.
well, I mean, they produce low thinking content for low thinking people. So,
And you know what? That's
at the end of the day, and it's
right?
all good.
Yeah, it's a prerogative, right?
It's all good because at the end of the day, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the information out. So when other people see a lot of black people out here complaining, they're gonna be like, "Hey, I listened to this stream. These dudes was breaking it down. Like, man, y'all turned against your own. What are you talking about?" And they ain't gonna have anything to say. What are you gonna say? What can you possibly say against other people when they say, "Why don't you build your own shit?" What's your answer?
Well, which you also
It's gonna be kind of hard to have a intelligent response as an academic because there is no intelligent response for not building your own.
And what you also can't say is that we never did anything to attempt to raise the means average, i.e., everything that's on this platform. It's all for free. We don't take shit down. Don't ask you for a dime. We just ask you to soak it in and utilize it so that we can raise the means average. See there?
But this is the same space that be so quick to say, "Why don't black men help each other?" But in their
Why
mind,
don't they?
Hold on. In their mind, helping them is giving them money for bullshit content. That's helping. That's helping them.
Well,
and for a dummy who has no brain, well, yeah, you are helping because it's charity.
Well, like I said, we have two different ideas, right? We have two different ideas, and that's why I said we just may be a natural enemy to others, because my idea has literally, it's not even in that venue, right? And see, and this is where go back to Ike's point about this outlier stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's about raising the means average.
Mm-hmm.
You can be an outlier, but you're still a human, just like everybody else.
Right.
So you're an outlier to what extent? What, your profession, your a talent or something, right? An ability. I mean that notion of an outlier only extends maybe in one or two maybe aspects of your life, but then there's also the very much human side of you, the mistake making you, right? Also, there's still that part also.
Well,
Yeah.
you could be considered an outlier, but the question is, when you're of that particular position, do you try to help? And for what we have seen in Booker T. Washington, everything that he has done, everything that he did during his time was community centric.
Yeah.
He worked so hard, he didn't even want to take a vacation because he didn't want black people to think that he was living high on the hog. He had to be practically forced to take a vacation. Okay, so you're talking about somebody who wanted who wanted to inspire black people to
Yeah.
go out there in their communities. When he was training them at Tuskegee, he was telling people, "What do you need where you live? If you lived in damn Opelika, Mississippi, okay, y'all need plumbers there. Y'all have a deficit. Okay, yo, do plumbing and take it there. Because once you take it there, you can be in business. Hey, what do y'all need? What do y'all need in Selma? Y'all need electricians? Okay, learn how to do this and take it there." So he was so focused in how he moved those, men, that there was a focus to their skill set being used in the proper perspective to build the economy. His mindset was trying to build an economy for black people as fast as he could.
Look, once again, this plan, that plan to do that was good enough for this goddamn country.
Yep.
Okay, so obviously, right, the use case is there. Who's going to argue the existence of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce? Do we need to post the link again for somebody who wants to come up and argue? I'm just saying, like, there's just certain shit that's just literally right in your face that you really can't, you really can't debate it or negate it. It is a fact, right? Much like everything else we've been discussing this evening here. Now we are coming up on 2.5, bro. Let's get some closing thoughts.
Let I go.
Go, Ike.
Yo,
Man, he's
Yo,
over there all
thank
quiet,
you.
bro.
Pardon me.
Yeah, you're just over there all quiet and shit, man.
No, yeah, thanks for having me up,
Sure.
and kind of entertaining my thought there. Maybe at some point I'll come back and we can talk about what exactly it is that is to be done, with regards to, in other words, projecting oneself, and then also the, let's say, the quote unquote community or society
Mhm.
forward. What are the projections? What are some possible things? What are the lessons to be learned from what Booker T. Washington did, as was last mentioned, regarding helping or being seen as helping, right? But in a case where your very existence is an anathema to certain people, right? Within a particular certain cultural milieu, then the whole mechanism by which you are pulled down or shamed or whatever is the fact that you actually, quote unquote, to keep it simple, care, right?
Right.
So, so you might see where I'm going there, but these are kind of like my closing thoughts. And also with regards to maybe the bigger picture, just wanted to say something like,
Mhm.
if there's anything that needs to be changed at whatever level, or whatever level of human organization, it has to do with replacing one form of elite with another form of elite.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, without a doubt.
so it is not a question of manna from heaven falling from the sky, or Jesus coming down and helping you, or everything transforming into some kind of new man type of teleological 1,000-year reign of Christ type, thing. It's going to be an elite controlling things, because in order for things to get done in the world, you need the outlier energy, to put it that way. Because by elite, I'm talking about the same way you would talk about an elite basketball player. You need elite people in all different sectors, whether it be in the field of energy or administration or in the sciences and whatnot, right?
Right.
In order for, so whatever group is in control, for example, if you say like Davos, for example, right? You just say, oh, what does it mean to be what does Davos have, right?
Mhm.
It has
to be able to replace Davos, let's say, and I'm just using Davos as an example. The Davos, man, the kind of
Yeah. The
Western
West. The West.
industrialized,
Yeah.
but from a kind of a global capitalist point, like their global kind of capital, neoliberal type of international type way of looking at themselves. That crew, in order to replace them, you have to have a better nightclub with a better velvet rope. In other words, that thing is a nightclub, right?
Yeah.
So because look, like if you're an elite, or you're some dusty kid in Africa or wherever, you're smart, you're coming up with some crazy battery or whatever, or maybe like as I heard Mike V mentioned the other day, putting cube satellites, whatever. Oh, someone's gonna invite you somewhere. Or as a matter of fact, let me not even use that kind of like an abstract example. That is also true. They're gonna invite you somewhere, and the reason why it is tempting for you to go there is because it is a club, literally. Like it's that velvet rope, and it's gonna be nice chandeliers, and maybe Henry Kissinger might be sitting there in the room. Wow,
It is
that
the
kind of
air
thing.
of exclusivity, right?
So it is a matter of fact true. Like this is not some kind of weird thing. We're social animals. We work within status groups. It's not. You're not going to make it seem like we're dealing with robots here. No, we're dealing with mammals, rats, pigs, human beings, right? And the idea is you have a club which also has to be elite, right? You can't be fake. No, you got to have real batteries and real satellites. Real something, right? Real something. But it is got to be cool. And offer more status, right? Because when that kid gets invited, whether it's a kid in Silicon Valley or somebody in Africa or whatever, it's a status thing. It appeals to their status. And no matter how pure of heart you are, you will be amazed to walk into a room and shake hands with Tony Blair and have a casual conversation with X, Y, and Z. So it is a kind of a club thing. And then my last point on this is the way the consensus view gets cultivated is not top down in that kind of a club thing. The reason why all these Davos people tend to say the same thing is just through basic social mimesis. In other words, you go to that club, all of a sudden everyone is reading everyone else. It's similar to the kind of the Byzantine generals problem, or I don't know who's a snitch problem, so I'm going to say the right thing.
Say the same thing.
Exactly. So all of a sudden we come out singing from the same book, and nobody really wrote that book, but it's all a part of that kind of crazy little game. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a kind of final thought.
No,
basically being, in order to replace change things, you have to replace an existing elite with a new one. And a huge part of it is the social aspect, meaning you have to have obviously better ideas, but offer a cooler club that offers people some kind of better status so that they go to maybe your conference as opposed to Davos. But anyways, those are my closing thoughts. Thanks again for having me on.
No, I appreciate it, Ike. And when we do that, dude, I'll make sure that we have the better nightclub with the better velvet rope, dude.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I think we got to put man, you just had the line of the night, bro. That whole velvet rope thing, man. With the club.
You gotta have the better nightclub with the better velvet rope.
That shit came out of left field. I thought the shit in my head was pretty good, man. Fuck what I think of shit. But yeah, man, it's a shout out to what you said, man.
Right.
Out to everybody else. I'll finish off at the end.
Okay.
I want to leave the audience with something from Carter G. Woodson, The Miseducation of the Negro. I think is absolutely fitting to end with this. He writes, now this book came out in 1933. And at this particular point in time, Carter G. Woodson was already questioning the Black academic class of Black people and their education. So for all the people that want to say, we hate on these academics and PhDs, nah. He says, practically all of the successful Negroes in this country are of the uneducated type or of that of Negroes who have had no formal education at all. 1933. The large majority of the Negroes who have put on the finishing touches of our best colleges are all but worthless in the development of their people. If after leaving school, they have the opportunity to give out to Negroes what traducers of the race would like to have it learned, such persons may thereby earn a living at teaching or preaching what they have been taught, but they never become. They never, hold on. They never become a constructive force in the development of the race. The so-called school then becomes a questionable factor in the life of this despised people. Carter G. Woodson is laying out the argument that we have been making, that the truly intelligent class of Black America has always been and will always be its business class. Your business class are going to give you solutions. They're going to give you products. And if you think I'm lying, look around you, look at your phone, look at your TV, look at your shoes, and ask yourself, did you produce those? And you're going to say no. So that means another class of people produced all those things for you.
And you went to them and you gave them your money for it.
Okay? And so Carter G. Woodson is saying that, and this is 1933. This is not 2023. So we're talking about 90 years later.
90 years ago.
And we're having the same conversation. So this is nothing new. And so smart people understand that the best way to be less dependent upon other people is create products yourself. Create an economic infrastructure for you and yours. Like that's what you're supposed to do. And for any Black male academic specifically, that's who I'm speaking to. We're gonna move the women to the side on this one. For any Black male academic that's hating on the Black business class, Black male business class specifically, y'all are cowards. Because you are preaching to Black people dependency on other people while trying to feign like you're speaking strength and power. In America, Booker T. Washington recognized it, and Earl Afari Hutchinson recognizing, looking back at Booker T. Washington. And he said that the new civil rights is Black business development. Because he recognized that the lack of institutions that we have has created a myriad of problems for Black people. Because the more Black institutions we build, the more opportunities we can give to our own, so they don't have to depend on people that they claim they don't like so much, which is what Amos Wilson talked about years ago.
Yep.
So let's be clear. The true sellouts of Black America are the people who don't give a damn about building any Black institutions for Black people that can best protect Black people. And I stand on that.
All right. And I'm gonna just go ahead and say we'll pick this one up on the next one. I mean, it's not like we're just gonna end this one because I got a daughter and I gotta go do daddy duties now. But this is another fire one, dude.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not about to pull up after what Ryle just said. I'm gonna just go ahead and just close it out, and we'll rock on the next one.
I'm gonna add something to this.
Go ahead, you got it.
Yeah, man. The first thing that really happened with me, and technically it could happen with anybody, is the first agency that you have to have is mental agency. Once you have mental agency, everything else builds on top of it, right? What I would say is figure out what your bag is. Is it a blue collar bag? Is it a white collar bag? Is it a bag that don't have anything to do with either of them, like my bag is, right? And basically hang out with people that push power into you. People like this space, people like MOT, people like Dollar Will, like everybody in here, man. If you guys really want to get the game on how to really do this from a financial side, go check out Dollar Will because Dollar Will don't really come around here that much. But everybody,
Yeah, shout out to Dollar Will.
everybody, go check out Dollar Will's page, man. He's really that guy who's really the person who's really trying to push power into people. He's basically an old school DC brother that really believes in that DC way of building stuff, which is similar to what Booker T. Washington is, right? That's that in practice. So go check him out and go really hang out with the people that really want good for you in this space, because there are people that are here for that, and we'll go deeper into that in future live streams. If somebody wants to get into some blue collar stuff, some people want to get into some white collar stuff. I'll start getting into my bag in terms of resources, in terms of how I did it. If y'all really want that, so yeah, man.
No, I appreciate you,
Hope
Jordan.
is not lost, man.
No,
Yeah,
no,
and,
it's
and
not.
let's not forget too, like in our world, in our world, in terms of brotherhood, nothing you're doing that contributes to the whole is menial.
Exactly.
It's not looked upon as that. It's looked upon as a vital piece of the puzzle. So the notion amongst brotherhood that you're going to be looked down upon, no, you have a solemn responsibility to your brotherhood, and what you do to enhance your brotherhood will be respected and appreciated amongst your circle of brothers, because they're going to understand that they need every piece to make the whole thing work. So we're not even those types of people. We're not even those types of people that's going to look down upon somebody who, because we don't look down on blue collar men, because we understand it's these men who have to build the buildings that make us comfortable to live in, the air conditioning that you have to make you comfortable in your home. These are what these men do. Ain't no academics giving you that. Sorry. They're not giving it to you. So we respect these men highly. Many of these types of men were our fathers, grandfathers, great grandfathers, great uncles. We salute all those men who made it possible for us to live in comfortable places. I've lived in three of my great grandfather's houses, and I can still go back to one of his houses that's still standing, and I can lay my head in that house if I needed to. So we need to really respect those ancestors, not just the ones who we know through history books, but the ones in our family who did a lot of that
Who
grunt
did the
work.
real shit?
Family could be
Man, those ancestors deserve more of your reverence than them gods or whatever.
Straight
right.
up.
Okay. You honor your bloodline.
100%.
All right, y'all. Well, look, I'm gonna go ahead and end it here, and I think what we'll do is we'll hit the next one this weekend, Ryle.
We done, bro. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh shit.
Yeah, for the business part.
Oh, okay. So then we on to the next one.
Yeah, we on to the next one.
Oh shit. Okay, y'all. See, y'all thought. Okay, well, this one is done. So with this one's done, we got some. Oh shit. Okay, we got some other shit for y'all.
Yeah, we got some shit cracking, bro.
We got. All right. Well, now that I know that, yeah. Well, then y'all need to wait for this next one coming up. Yeah. This one's going. Like I said, be prepared to get pissed off.
Yep. This next one is going to deal with the clash between the black intellectuals and the business class, and specifically pointing out specific people who were instrumental in making sure this history has been hidden from Black people. So we're gonna call out some names.
Yeah, and we need like man, if y'all can like bare minimum, like if you just get a little word notepad or some shit, write down names and stuff, and then I want y'all to like start researching, man. Start digging.
Yeah,
Like
everybody.
hit those links, you know, Ryle drop for those books and stuff. That's the reading list. The shit he's reading from is those links that he dropped.
Yeah, everybody also in the chat, man. Do your research on Marion Barry and what he did to DC in a positive way, in terms of the black business class there. You know, a lot of people don't really know how influential and how important he was to DC.
Yeah,
And
I heard a lot about the
a
stuff.
lot
I
of
heard
that.
some of the things about him. I don't know too much, but I've heard that he did a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just gets known for, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets known for all that
sugar
stupid
booger,
shit. The
booger
white
sugar.
folks. Yeah. But yeah, he was the one that basically built the platform for people in DC to
Mm.
actually walk into industry.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well, look, we're gonna go ahead and shut it down. If you guys haven't liked this live stream, please do. If you did, if you didn't, that's cool. But if you did, please like it. If you haven't subscribed, please do. If you want to, I'm not gonna shame you into it. But if you haven't subscribed, please do. And with that, we'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace out, y'all.
100%.
peace, everybody. Thanks for supporting.